I think that those with a soul will still always have the advantage. There's something about a video, there's something about the hollowness of a voice. You can look in the eyes of an AI. It
Sure.
is still all obvious to us that it is soulless. And that's what sells. Copywriting is just connection, it's soul. That's why do you think like all of these fake like AI podcasts, they could just throw them out there, but they're not getting listened to. They're not getting audiences. It's you. It's people like you who
Right.
other people are connecting with. So if we are in the business of connecting from our soul, we are irreplaceable because
Yes.
we cannot
That I agree
recreate the
with.
soul.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we share real life experiences of people who've been there and done that in finding better, because sometimes the best path to success is to follow in the footsteps of others who have been there and done that. My guest today is DM Meador. All right. So here's the thing. We're going to talk about finding better in this world that we're living in, and how we can kind of shift things around because the world is changing so much in terms of jobs, in terms of life. So listen, DM has been an entrepreneur since he was a teenager shoveling snow. And he's also all the way up to becoming a CEO. Today, he helps attorneys and folks like us, just regular people, use a couple of things. Use intentional storytelling, use podcasting, and use these different tools, including AI, to elevate their reputation, differentiate themselves, which is something that we all need to figure out how to do better these days, and build themselves and their businesses in a simple and sustainable way that most people overlook. Dennis, welcome to Finding. I called you Dennis, DM. That's all
No
right.
worries, my friend.
All right. His name is Dennis, but he goes by DM. DM, welcome to the show.
Very good to be on here. I did kind of peruse a couple of your episodes, so I was definitely excited to have this sort of conversation. I always enjoy of getting out of that like pitch man role of like you should buy from me,
Yeah, we're
and
not
actually
looking
get
for
to just
pitches
have
here. Yeah.
and actually just have a real conversation. So thank
Yeah.
you for inviting me on for the opportunity to do that.
Well, you know what? The thing is that having real conversations and educating people actually is a pitch, right? And to me, I was in sales for 40 years, and I didn't have to talk about my product. Anyway, just having a conversation and adding value to people kind of is what selling is. But what we do here, as we talked about, is we're just talking about different ways for people to find better in their lives. And in the world that we've entered, and I call it the world of artificial intelligence, and whether you're using it personally or not, overtly, the products you're using are everything's going through AI right now. Okay. And so in the world that we're living in, things are changing so fast. And the idea of figuring out how to differentiate yourself, figuring out how to make yourself raise yourself above the fray, right? And all those different kinds of things is really important. And the rules are changing. So let's just get into it. Share what you do, and and the value that my audience is going to get out of our conversation today.
Sure. So what we do is we have built kind of like a marketing ecosystem, if you will, with podcasting at the center of it.
Okay.
Essentially taking just a few minutes of our clients' time, generally about 30 minutes all in. We shoot two shows at a time, so an hour each time. And we take that and then we turn it into an audio podcast. We turn it into a video podcast and put it on YouTube. We're also in the process of turning it into a streaming television show. We have two TV networks. We then
Cool.
take and we chop it up a little bit and we turn it into shorts and reels, and we propagate social media with content from that 30 minutes. We actually can take that 30 minutes and create 30 pieces of content to disseminate across all the different social media outlets, up to about 11 of them
Okay,
if you
okay.
want to do Twitch.
Okay, so let's stop right there because you're sounding like a pitch man. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. Who does this apply to? I mean, who can this apply to? I know that you work
I mean,
with
really, it's
attorneys, but
any,
I mean,
it's,
listen. My audience out there is Mr. Joe, Ms. Joe, right? Can anybody create a podcast?
I mean, yeah, anybody can create a podcast, but it depends on what you want to accomplish with it.
Right?
So, if you're trying to find clients and save time, that is totally different. Tiny on. Hi, Tiny. I'm learning this new AI. We were talking about AI.
Okay.
So anybody can have a podcast because a podcast can be anything from my love of the 80s cartoon The Smurfs and finding other people across the world that have that same sort of like love for it and we just want to talk about it, all the way to what we do, which is what we call authority podcasting, which is essentially establishing our clients as the authority in their market for what they do.
Okay.
So yes, anybody can have a podcast, but you really want to decide, why do I have a podcast? Am I building friends and relationships? Am I learning? Am I growing a business? Am I building a referral network? Am I establishing myself as a thought
Okay.
leader in it for a particular, like there's so many things you can do with a podcast. So the short answer is yes, anybody can have a podcast, but what you do with that podcast and how you put that podcast together is
Right.
decided by your
Right.
goals.
Okay. So given the principles of what you do, I want to broaden this so that it doesn't just apply to people, just doesn't just apply to podcasters, right? Because my audience is a very, very broad audience. But what are the kinds of things that you do to, elevate their reputation and differentiate the folks that you work with?
Primarily, what we do with what we call the authority podcasting is we find out who their client is, and then we build the content around the desired client or audience. So a lot of people build their podcast around themselves. My knowledge, I want to talk about this. I want to do this. It's, they've got something stuck in their eye. And so what we try to do is we try to say, okay, who is your them? And let's focus on the them in your audience, whether it's individuals, potential clients, or whatever, and build the content around that. So we do FAQ podcasts where the attorney or the professional sits down and they talk about a very specific time in somebody's life, a very specific problem. And so now if I start searching and I start, going through this, what do most people do? They go to the internet and they say, I'm separated. How do I make sure I get the boat? Or something like that. And they start searching. And then all of a sudden, my client, if in their market, is answering that question with short videos or even an entire podcast. So positioning yourself as an authority is just answering questions in the time of need, in a time of fear, in a time of confusion. When I give you clarity and I assuage your fears, I am now your expert. You don't care if I have a doctor this in front of my name or a PhD
Right,
after
right,
it.
right.
I've brought you comfort. I've brought you clarity. So that is really how you become an authority in today's day and age, is by being there or being the one who answers that need.
Okay. Okay. So stepping back just a little bit, if you think through that, that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of general principles with anything, right? I mean, you figure out the
Absolutely.
fear, you figure out the pain, and instead of trying to solve everything on the planet, you just go after those things um that matter really to the person you're talking
To
to,
that
right?
person in that moment, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just talked to Tiny when your
Yes.
camera went out, and you said
Yes.
that you're using AI. Okay. Now, the world that we're going into is the world of artificial intelligence, right? So what did you just do, and how are you using AI in your life and in your business?
So my life, I mean, obviously using things like Claude and kind of planning and diving deeper into different areas of my life, and kind of trying to prime my life to be the best that it can. I've got equipment like what you have here that, it's a robot. It does what it's told. And so if after so many seconds it doesn't see some sort of movement, there's also things that can happen. Like I know if I make a certain movement, let me see if it works. But if I do this, of course it doesn't work when I want it to, but I'll be talking and I'll do this and it'll zoom in. I call it the big head view.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's got all these different commands based off of movements. And then I've got these other like voice commands that it has. So that's kind of in my personal life. In my professional life, I started this company a little over 2 years ago, and I wanted to be AI forward. We first started as just a production company, and we gave a couple of pieces of content. I soon learned that giving professionals that are busy a nice video and 3 little mini videos to go with it, I mean, you might as well be throwing it in the trash can 90% of the time. They're busy. What do I do with it? So through AI and looking at our processes, after about 6 months, we 10x'd our deliverables with the same people. So now instead of giving them 3 pieces, we give them 30. And then we keep adding and adding and adding onto that.
And
as a company.
And AI is enabling you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So we use AI to cut up videos. We use AI in our processes. We had 2 people that had a job, and their sole job was to take the content that we made and upload it to the system that we use to disseminate the content for our clients. Kind of like I don't know, it's called Metricool is the name of the program if you're familiar with it. But it was 2 people's full-time job. Well, we were able to automate that position. And one of my people on my AI team, which we have 4 people that work in AI interior in our company, he came to me and he said, hey, we got rid of 2 positions. And what I promised my people is I said, everybody, listen to me. AI, you're hearing about layoffs. You're hearing about all the stuff that happens. I promise you this. If you learn and stay with me and upskill with AI, I will keep you. I will not get rid of you for a robot. So he came to me, he said, we got rid of these 2 positions. And I said, were we able to find it? He said, well, yeah, one has video editing skills and one has audio editing skills. So we moved them into those departments and we started them there. And now they're working their way up through there. And so we're learning like constantly with that. We're empowering our sales force. We're creating bots, basically doing all the it listens to the conversation. And if it says, okay, John, we'll talk to you on Tuesday at 2, it auto pulls that up. You don't have to click, then click on Tuesday, then click at 2, then click save, then click, it's like an 8-step click process.
Right.
Instead, the bot comes up and says, do you want to call this client back at 2 p.m. on Tuesday? You click correct, and then it sets everything and they move on to the next thing. So to me, it's no different than, the turn of the 19th century into the 20th century when, the automation of the world happened. Now we have, then we had the computerization of the world.
Right.
Now we're having the automation of thought,
right,
which is really kind of that next level. So to me, these things are here to empower us, not replace us if we upskill with them. If you were, if you knew how to be the best, work the best plowshare with the horse, and then the tractor came along,
right,
you could either just sit there on the ground and say, well, I guess I don't work anymore, or you could learn how to drive the dang
tractor. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think it's any different in the time that we live.
I agree with you. The amazing part of it is that I've been hearing seemingly more and more recently the idea of folks, especially in tech, opting out. And at first I asked, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what it means is that we have people who are deciding to opt out of AI because they don't believe in it, or they're scared of it, or they're fearful of it, or they don't think it's going to do anything positive. And to me, it's what you just said. It's like the guy plowing with a horse refusing to learn how to drive a tractor. Or when smartphones came out, folks refuse. I mean, this is how we're going to look back on this moment. We're going to look back on this moment as we did people who refused to use smartphones because their landline phones were perfectly fine. right? And but to me, the difference is things are going to happen so fast. You've heard the saying, there's three kinds of people: those who make things those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who say what happened, right?
Mhm.
And this is kind of that world. What do you think?
I mean, absolutely. I used to tell people that 1 year of in tech is like 3 years in the real world growing up, but it's actually turned into about 1 month is about
Yeah,
3 years, because the way I started my AI team was I was just like, I can't full time just pay attention to all these AI things that come my way. Is this
right,
real? Is this?
right.
And here's the other thing: two things about AI that most people don't realize. One, about 50% of what AI is just automations that have already existed for about 15 years.
Hmm.
People are just finally embracing them and trusting them. Number two, another 25% of the AI that we see is major hype. For example, you see these videos come up and they're like, oh, for only, you can create this video like it's Game of Thrones, and with just talking. What they don't explain is the person who made that 45-second clip was an expert who spent 40 hours to create a 30-second clip.
An
And
expert.
so they
Yeah.
they sell us they sell us something that doesn't exist yet, in hopes that, that's why, Facebook's got all these like $29 and you can get this, why pay, and it's like 99.9% of that stuff is fake, and so many people are afraid of it. And it's
Yeah.
like, we're not even there yet. Like, what needs to be done? Like, we build little bots to do things, and it takes my guys like two or three guys like a couple of days to do something that, yeah, is super easy for a human, but you have to literally think about, if this, then this, if this, then this, and this, and this, and this. You have to build out all these spider like processes and everything. It's not just, hey, do this and this exists. That's the thing. We're not nearly as far in AI as we think we are. And those who are, it's so far ahead of what we use in a day-to-day basis that it's like back to the smartphone illustration. We're using, like, what do they call those cricket phones for the grandparents that just have like three phone numbers on it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You like click here for the hospital, click here for your son, click here for, whatever. We're using that phone, and the monoliths are using, iPhone 18s. So we're not quite using the same things, and we're not quite like, think about all of the stuff where they fired all these people and then they hired them back. Think about Claude. Claude's biggest thing that they're hiring right now are copywriters to sell their automation so people will buy it to use it for copywriting.
Are you suggesting that the AI is such that copywriters never have to worry about AI?
I think that those with a soul will still always have the advantage. There's something about a video, there's something about the hollowness of a voice. You can look in the eyes of an AI. It
Sure.
is still all obvious to us that it is soulless. And that's what sells. Copywriting is just connection, it's soul. That's why do you think like all of these fake like AI podcasts, they could just throw them out there, but they're not getting listened to. They're not getting audiences. It's you. It's people like you who
Right.
other people are connecting with. So if we are in the business of connecting from our soul, we are irreplaceable, because
Yes.
we cannot
That I agree
recreate the
with.
soul.
That I
We
agree
can't
with.
recreate the soul. And so
Yep.
that's what I'm saying is, like, we go and people are, oh, I had Claude write, spin me up some ad copy and some copywriting. And it's like Claude itself has people writing the copy to sell you Claude. So like you've got to be careful what you use it with.
Right. Right. Yeah, I do believe in what you say. I've always said that, well, not always, but starting about 12 years ago, I said that, with the rise of technology over my 40-year career in technology, um, with the rise of machine learning at that time, I said that we are going to experience a renaissance of heart. Um, because technology has gotten us so smart, we've kind of forgotten our heart. And I think, listening to what you're saying, yeah, from the soul standpoint and the emptiness of the technology, I think when it's all said and done, the one thing that AI will not be able to replace is our humanity and human connection.
Well, exactly. And it's like, I have a few former clients and they wanted it even easier. So they have these like AI, like, commercials that they put out. And I just kind of said something to the effect, like in a general sense. I said, listen, there's going to be a lot of people in about 3 years who are saying marketing doesn't work because they thought they could replace themselves with an AI avatar of themselves and it would be just as effective. And instead of saying, well, maybe people need to be involved in this still, they're going to say, oh, marketing doesn't work. It's all a sham. It's all a joke. And it's like, no, it's not the machine that doesn't work. It's the gasoline.
Interesting. Interesting. So what advice do you give to people with regards to AI and engaging in it if they haven't done so already?
I would say that you need to find a way to use AI that benefits you. So that's what I would suggest. Find something simple and start building from there because that's what I had to do. I jumped in with both feet and I spent so much time being confused. That's why I hired these young kids. I'm like, you guys play in AI because it's too much for me. I can't, I'm running here, I'm figuring this. Now all of a sudden I've got this new way to organize my schedule. Now I've got a new way to organize the company. Now I've got, I've got all this stuff like going a million different directions. So I let them worry about that. And I focus on how can I be better? How can this help me? How does this tool benefit my life?
Okay, so you'd mentioned that you hired kids to do the AI. What are the ages of these kids?
Mid 20s, early 20s, I want to say. They're both around 25 ish.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that real quick, okay? Because you're hiring these young people, and why not old people?
I mean, neuroplasticity,
Huh?
um, neuroplasticity, number one.
Isn't that
Um, you
crazy?
know,
Yeah, talk
I
about
mean, it's
that.
just true.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the fact is that my brain doesn't absorb. Like, I live in Mexico. I was living in Belize on an island, right? And then, which was English speaking. So it's pretty easy. But we move up into Mexico because my wife's getting ready to have a baby. And
Oh,
I
yay.
learned, thank you. So I learned Romanian, which is a Latin based Romance language in my early 20s, just picked it up over a few months.
Uh-huh.
Now here I am in Merida, Mexico. And I'm like sitting down for an hour and a half, I'm just like, it's not nearly as easy as it used to be. That's number one. But number two, they've grown up wired. We are 3.5 generations
Yes,
into digital
that is so
living.
true. Yep.
Like I was one of the only people to even have a computer in my classroom, but these kids have grown up that way. And so all I'm doing is it's just like, you speak this language, you're my translator. Like
Yep.
you translate
Yep.
for me so that I don't have to learn a whole new language, but I can at least have a way to understand what's going on. So I'm not
Yes.
learning, AI, and I could prompt a little bit and I prompted a couple of apps, but real basic stuff. I'm not like, oh, I need to learn how to like, prompt and all that. No, I'm doubling down on my communication. I'm doubling down on my connection. I'm doubling down on my stories and teaching other people how to connect and teaching other people how do you, in a day and age where 83% of people solely use the internet to find professionals, how do you go from, and this is what I heard attorneys and professionals tell me for years, if I can get them across the desk from me, 80% of the time I'm going to get them as a client. They don't sit across the desk from you anymore. They go and they check out your site and they check out your social presence and they watch
Right.
your videos. If you have a podcast, they check it out. If you have a YouTube channel, they check it out. They're doing all of these things before they ever walk in the door. And let me give you an illustration. So my wife is 12 years younger than me, so she's a little ahead in the curve digitally. So when we came up here in May to visit her, the doctor is going to deliver the baby. She said, I have two doctors I want to visit. They kind of work together. Let's sit down with the first one. I know this is the one we're going to hire. I was like, okay. And she had said some people had recommended this person. So I didn't think much about it. And as we're sitting down, he's asking her question after question. She's answering it. And he goes, man, you really know your stuff. And then he come to the end and he said to her, do you have any other questions for me? And she said this. And listen, being in the business I'm in, if I could have paid my wife to say this, I would have. If I could have planned for her to say it, I would have. She literally said, no, I've been following you on Instagram for 2 years. You were already my doctor. I just wanted to come meet you. And
Wow.
that is how people find their professionals now. And most of us don't realize that because we're trying to stay away from digital, whereas the majority of the people we're interacting with, the majority of their life, they've been Googling, they've been following, they've been engaging, and 90% of it is done online. My whole career, I was running a remote company in 2001 on calling cards and dial-up internet from Romania. So like my whole career has been digitally online. I have people that have worked for me on different companies for 20 plus years, 10 plus years, never even met them. Never even met them in real life, but we're like really good friends.
Right.
We'll sit here and chat
right.
like this.
Right.
We just live in a different time, and we could sit here and reminisce about the days on the front porch, but why don't you just live in the days of the podcast? Because the front porch is gone. We're now on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And soon to be, at some point in time, the podcast will move on, right? And something else
I
will.
hope not.
Yeah. But I mean, right? I mean, something will happen, and we're going to embrace it because we know how.
Here's what I tell people. Instead of working on your methodology, always hone and work on your method and understand that the method, your message, and the method with which you deliver that message will change as time progresses. I was a pastor for about 20 years. So I spoke from 3 people in a room in a blizzard, so only 3 people drove to church to 4,000 in a auditorium. And speaking there now, last year, I didn't speak to one room of people, but I was on about 100, actually 99 podcasts last year, and I've been on 50 something already this year. So my message at its core, connect, care, hasn't really changed with time, but the method in which I deliver it has. The tool, the things we need to accomplish haven't changed. We need to be open to the tools or the methods by which we accomplish that message.
Wow. That is cool. That's cool, folks. That is such great, I'll call it wisdom, because
I'll take it. I used to be offended by that word, but
hey, I'll tell you something. This is all white. Thank God for hair color.
Yeah.
But it just kind of happens whether you're wise or not, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah, the method, because you're absolutely right. The message can stay the same. I mean, the message of love and making the world better and whatever you want to say hasn't changed over the eons, but the method of communicating those messages is changing constantly. So, how do people do that? What do you recommend to folks who say, "Okay, I get it. I got this message." You talked about podcasting. Is there a recipe of folks or ideas that people can just use?
I don't think there's a recipe. I mean, I talked about keeping your end user in mind. Who is your audience? What is the purpose of your podcast? What are you doing? Because I know some people that are just like, I just do this because, I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to connect with other attorneys. I wanted to connect with, people with stories. I wanted to connect with people with the same struggles I have. So until you decide where you're going, you won't get anywhere. And I think a lot of people, they just like aimlessly like, listen, if you just want to hang out in the garage with a couple of buddies and have a couple beers and just make fun of each other and record it and put it out there and have people laugh with you, that's a podcast. There's plenty of podcasts like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or if you say, listen, I want to help people find better. I want to help them go from, and I'll just real quick talk about my life. From 8 to 13 years old, my mom dated heroin dealers, crack dealers, gang leaders. I, I wasn't in the car, but was shot at with 3 drive-bys, police raids all the time, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I remember at that age saying to myself, I will not be poor when I grow up. I graduated high school with the 2.43 GPA. I always tell people magna cum barely, right? But it was because I was already making money, more than my parents most weeks. And I just wanted to get out there and make money.
Yeah.
I fell into advertising. I loved it. I fell into, more entrepreneurship. When we talk about shoveling snow, I didn't shovel snow. I had about 5 or 6 young men in my neighborhood that were 2 or 3 years younger than me, and I got the snow shoveling jobs, the paper route, the lawn mowing jobs, the leaf raking jobs. They were too nervous to knock on doors, and I didn't want to do the work. So I would get the job. I would give them half. I would keep half. They would do the job, and that's how I made my money. So, you go from that to where I'm at now, basically saying, I want more, I want more, I want more. And I'm not going to, but I talked about, I have been fortunate to have had some pretty cool experiences in my life, living in Europe, living on an island in the Caribbean, now living in Mexico, doing a lot of traveling, running a few multi-million-dollar companies that just kind of came from scratch from an idea that I'm like, the big difference with what we do, John, in our podcast, here's the ingredient that I just assumed was a thing. And I found out at least it's not a very well-known thing. And it's this: my clients aren't the hosts of their own shows. They're always the guest. Because in hosting a podcast, I'm positioning someone else as an expert.
Right.
So my attorneys have a co-host, which are people that I provide. They've been on CNN, WWE, weather, meteorologists, professional people who bring out the best in them and interview them when they come do their show. And they just say, good to have you back, Attorney Johnson. Today we're talking about divorce, and specifically when there's been, domestic violence in the past, and you want to make sure you get full custody and supervised visits. How do we accomplish something like that? And then they just delve in for 20 minutes. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, really? Well, and they prompt that out of them. So all I did is again, I'm not saying I came up with this. I'm just saying I thought people were doing it. And it just made sense to me to say, okay, attorneys don't want to host a podcast. They want to be on podcasts, but they want their own podcast. So how do I have them be on podcasts while they have their own podcast? And that's what we came up with as what we call authority podcasting.
Interesting. Okay. Well, cool. All right. Well, listen, what do you want to leave my audience with today?
I mean, your show's called Finding Better. It's about having people, one of the things that I've had the privilege of doing throughout really my entire life, especially as from a teenager onwards, is being able to really see more in people than they see in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've found when you can get somebody to understand the power of just being a human in the first place, just being a human on a planet with however many species, regardless of your, theological beliefs, we're clearly at the top of the chain on this planet. Whether there's other planets that have people, it doesn't matter. Right now, right here, what we know is being a human is a pretty darn good thing. And so if you want better, the opportunity is there, especially in today's day and age. I have young people from Nigeria, young people from South Africa, from Ghana, from the Philippines, from Mexico, from Pakistan, that I am seeing literally, I have been able to see them raise the station of their whole family through the internet age in which we live and making a career in working and being flexible and working other places. We live in a time where you can raise yourself like no other time in history. And so the fact that you are a human in this time in history means that you can, without a shadow of a doubt, find better if you want it. That's what I'll leave you with.
What an amazing gift to leave. Um, and thank you for that. Because you're absolutely right. Folks, DM is he's absolutely right. He talks about folks in third world countries raising their stature in life by using the technology that we have. And the only thing that the difference is access to the internet, access to being online, access to these tools. Well, guess what? Every one of us, I know 100%. You never say 100%, but I'm going to say 100% right now. We all have access to the internet because you are watching us through the internet. So I know you have access to the internet, right? So if people in Nigeria and all these different countries can do this, why not you? Why not you? And in the world that we're living in with AI, we haven't even started yet. And so grab hold of it. I mean, it's a fruit on a tree, for crying out loud, right? And take it and eat it and plant the seeds. And anyway, I'm getting all crazy about this, Dennis, because what a great message to leave behind, folks. Dennis, DM just gave you, my goodness, a gift, a gift of empowerment. That's what I'll call it, because AI and the internet is what I'm calling the great equalizer. It's enabling people in all over the world, in third world countries even, to be at the same level we're at.
I could tell you story after story after story of people that I've got to see go from like a room with 4 or 5 people in it to building their own home to taking their families on vacation for the first time in their family history to going to college to, you know what I mean? Like story after story after story after story, because I live in the internet and I work with people all over the world. So I have the privilege of saying, like, when people just like, listen, we can all have a woe is me contest and every single one of us would win in our mind.
Yep.
But what about the wow is me contest?
Wonderful. Wonderful. And what you just talked about, Dennis, so over that time frame was the internet, right? If our people logged in, were able to find different opportunities utilizing this new online world, which is a whole world accessible through a computer. And over the last decade or two, we're able to massively change their lives. Well, now fast forward to where we are today with the rise of artificial intelligence. Okay. We're going to find those experiences accelerate. Where people took maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years, it's going to take a year or two with the
Oh yeah, in
technology
two to
that we
three
have right
years,
now.
we will see
Right?
solo companies doing 7 and even into 8 or maybe even 9 figures. One person, for me, human in the loop is important, especially if there's a creative aspect to it. But
Hmm.
one person companies that will be able to do 8 and 9 figures. So you can decide, do I want to be one of those one person people companies that do that? Or do I want to be one of the people that wishes that I could work for that person, but now they have a bot. And so now what do I do? Like the choice is ours.
The choice is ours. Now, here's something I'm going to leave with because of what DM just said. If you have a problem with billionaires, if you have a problem with these people who have made all kinds of money and nobody deserves, go become one. What DM, I'm sorry, I keep calling,
Don't worry
I
about
keep
it.
thinking of my friend Dennis. What DM
Hey, my
just said,
sister does it. So,
okay,
if my
all right,
sister
well,
still
good,
does it,
well, good.
I'll give you a pass.
Well, I hope you like your sister. But anyway, listen, the idea is you have an opportunity to become one. There will be people like DM just said who are one person companies, right? Who are going to become billion-dollar companies in 2 or 3 years. Here's your chance. DM, this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, if people want to learn more about you, where do they go?
Well, I'm going to just say my website for right now because, as I told you, I'm in LinkedIn jail for letting my VA in one of my VAs in Africa log in and do something, and then they were like, "Hey, you can't be in Mexico and Africa simultaneously. Someone's hacked your account. We're going to shut you down and make sure you're real." So typically, LinkedIn's my playground, but thelegalpodcastnetwork.com or theauthoritypodcastnetwork.com, either one of those. And then from those, you can link down to any number of socials, things like that. Um, you know, and,
Perfect.
by the time this comes out, find me on LinkedIn. I'm sure I'll be back there. Hopefully they haven't locked me out forever. It should be
Okay.
just a week or so.
All right. DM, listen, thank you for joining me and sharing your experience and giving people some new perspective. You gave me some new perspective, which is really wonderful. Folks, check it out. Please share this, right? And let folks around you know, because this is really relevant information for the world we live in these days. So with that, I love you. God bless you. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.